Hi, welcome back to Intro Car. It's been a while since we've done a video, so please feel free to add comments for what you'd like us to talk about below, and we'll try and get them covered. Today we're going to talk about ball joints. We've got a full set of steering and suspension ball joints here for Silver Shadows up to Spirit, end-of-line Spirits before Arnage. Arnage has got a different setup. We'll cover those in another video. So the Shadow and Spirit ball joints and Turbo and T-type ball joints, you've got a top and bottom ball joint for the suspension and steering, and you've also got one on the damper. So obviously that's three either side, slightly different in setup. The top ball joint is pressed into the upper arm, so to get the top ball joint out you'll need to remove the top arm. So the inner camber mount will have to be taken. There's a bolt that goes through the inner camber mount, through the subframe and through the top arm, and that's on an off-center bolt which sets the camber angle. So you want to mark that up before you take it out. And then you've got another bolt holding on the caster rod, and then once you've broken you have to take the split pin out of the ball joint pin and then undo the nut. Leave the nut on while you break the ball joint seat, because otherwise the top arm will just fly up, and the hub can potentially fall towards you. So you want to leave the nut on and probably use a ball joint splitter or a big hammer. Break the ball joint seat and then take the top arm out. There's a castellated ring on the top there that you have to undo, and then this is pressed in on these splines. And if you're replacing the whole ball joint, you can just press the old one out, press the new one in, and then reassemble it. If you wanted to adjust it, there's this tabs that are pinned over, and then you can undo the top, and if everything's intact you can just wind it up and re-lock it over, and put some more grease in there. If not, if you want to replace the seats, then at that point you can undo it all the way, knock the ball joint out, pull the seats out, buy a kit, and in the kit you get obviously both sides, the seats either side. This is the one that the pin goes through, and this is the other end, and that's obviously packed with grease and then put it back together. Now, to set the tension on the ball joint, you do it with this top nut. So the tighter you wind this in, the more tension you'll put on the ball joint. So you have to obviously set that and feel the ball joint and make sure it's at the right tension. The bottom ball joint and the damper ball joint are a little bit different because they come without a cap on the bottom. So when you take this off, to get the bottom ball joint off, you'll want to remove the whole hub probably and do it in a bench in a vise on a bench. So you'll undo the top ball, you take the calipers and everything off because it obviously makes the hub a lot lighter, and all the pipe work. Nothing's connected to the hub. Then the steering arms as well, they'll want to come off, so you can take the hub off. You'll want to undo the top ball joint so it's loose, but obviously don't let it just fall out of the way. Once you've done that, you can undo the nut, pull the top arm off and let the hub come down gently. Then you do the same, take the bottom ball joint nut off, leave the nut on, de-seat the bottom ball joint, and then you can lift the hub back up, undo the nut and lower the ball joint out, lower the hub out and take it over to the bench. Then you've got a cup that this sits in at the bottom of the hub, and you might get away with holding the whole lot in the vise and undoing just the top ball joint, but you have to get a socket where the ball pin can actually sit through the center of the socket. So it's a bit, you need a slightly longer socket and one that will sit. This is actually the same size, I believe, as the cup that it sits in. So when you undo it, you want to kind of line the socket up so it's only holding the top and not the bottom as well. Or you take the whole lot out and then hold the bottom socket in a vise and undo it. These, obviously you can see the bottom of the seat there. You'll be able to tell if these are worn out because there'll be a hole in it, and you knock the pin through and check that the ball pins it is not got corroded and misshapen. If you are just changing the seats, then again you can put the new seats in. Otherwise you put a new ball joint on it, and this is how they come. So when you're adjusting these ball joints up, it's different to the top ball joint because you need to use shims. So what I've got is the same setup for the damper ball joint. These obviously at the bottom of the damper. This is the cup that the damper ball joint sits in underneath the damper. The later dampers have these built into them post-active ride, but the early ones are a separate piece. So if you screw that, if you imagine screwing that onto the ball joint, you'll see that there's actually a gap that's gone tight, and there's a gap between the ball joint and the housing. Now what that means is it's crushing the seat. So it will go tight, and if you tighten that up further, all you're going to do is just squash the seat. So, and the ball joint will be too tight. So what you need to do is you need to fit shims. So these come in different thicknesses. Just put a stack of them in there, just to show you. And then when you tighten that up, it tightens down on the shims rather than tightening down on the seat. And you have to obviously, if you put in some shims and you tighten it down and it's too loose, then you'll know that you need to take shims out. And you do that until you get the right feel on the ball joint. And there is an actual torque setting on the ball joint which tells you how much you should be able to lever on it before it moves. But to be honest, I expect most people do it by feel. So yeah, the bottom ball joint and the damper ball joint are done in the same way with the shims. And you can buy shims, but sometimes you might find that you're just taking shims out, particularly if you find that you've got play in your ball joint but the seats are okay and the ball joint's okay and it's just a matter of adjusting. You might find that just taking out a shim solves the problem. So that's pretty much it. There's kits available for each. I've only got the damper ball joint kit here today. That doesn't come with it. It's just 2 seats, the rubber and the clips. Or if your ball joint's completely gone and you just want to put a new ball joint, they're also available complete. So that's about it for today. Please feel free to leave comments with suggestions below, and catch you on the next one.